waiting on the stream delay.
Yeah, it's bad tonight.
But that's it's just part of the course.
I saw Twitch died earlier, so at least we can
Mm,
stream.
this is true. All right, I see us now. What's up, nerds, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things competitive Overwatch and Overwatch 2. The new year is upon us, and we got a new limited time event that dropped earlier today with the quote mid-season patch. This is not the one that includes the Roadhog changes, so if you're wondering where those are, that's at a later time in January. So that's still coming up this month. But anyways, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for our live show over on YouTube. And of course, thank all of our returning listeners, both in video and audio form. So we got not like a heavy show tonight. We do have some more roster announcements. We have an Overwatch League rebrand, but not the team that we were expecting in that case. But it does kind of give us a indicator of the direction that APAC is potentially taking, which was something that had been rumored here not that long ago that I know we had talked about on the podcast. But anyways, I'm your host, Emily Drunk, and of course, as you can tell, joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Spyder. And Spyder, a lot of things happening in a short amount of time, as per usual. I know you were hopping on before the podcast tonight to check out Battle for Olympus. I myself got home, slept through heroic progression, by the way, which is fantastic.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
I was gonna
so
ask
it's like
what happened there.
I woke up at like 9:30, and I was like, fuck, I need to get some caffeine, and like I'm still like trying to wake up, but like, man, I was just fucking wiped. But it beat wiping on heroic terrors, which was an issue for us this past week with people not realizing which mark they had. And even on the final boss in normal, there's a part where it marks you with polarity, positive and negative, and it puts, the color red or blue above your head, and people, for whatever reason, still were going to the wrong side, and we were still wiping on that fight. I actually missed our normal kill this week because of, Tuesday nights are the nights I have to leave half an hour early. And, I missed a normal kill for the week on that front. Thankfully, my tier token didn't drop, so I don't have to, worry about that, missing out an opportunity on acquiring my 4-piece, this week. But all in all, I'm really excited about this limited time event. I was watching the pre-stream a little bit, excited to check it out tomorrow. That's probably what I'm going to be doing. But yeah, as per usual with any patch that hits Overwatch, there are a couple of things that kind of like snuck in there that were not intended, which we'll get into here in just a bit.
No, the new event is fun. It's chaos. It's just pure unbridled chaos. There's almost no way for me to explain it other than that, just because of the fact that everybody's throwing ultimates. All the ultimates last for 20 seconds or longer, because if you do certain things during the ultimate, it extends the ultimate. So theoretically you can keep going and chaining it, which I did in one of the games that I won, unfortunately, right before I started the stream. The first game on stream, I think I finished really, really badly. And then, I progressively got better, or the lobbies got worse, probably the second one. But it's cool. I think the mode's good. I think, I hate to say it, but I think it needs a balance patch, because there are some heroes that are just blatantly better than others. Reinhardt is so strong in that, on pretty much every map, that it's hard to justify that. And Pharah's really good, because the only one who can really counter Pharah is Widowmaker, and Widowmaker gets ran over so fast that nobody plays Widowmaker. So Pharah can do a lot of work as well. But in terms of the tank characters, they all feel pretty well balanced. Reinhardt, I think, is a little bit strong, but he can still be outplayed. Lucio I kind of slept on, because I'm not good at Lucio, but I got into what was it, that last game with 2 really good Lucios, and they were just unkillable. They healed so much and they booped so it was insane. So I'll be trying him out, but the mode's cool. I don't think it's going to keep my attention for 2 weeks. Like, it's not like Junkenstein or something that, I'm going to come back to. Like, I'm probably going to grind it out to get all the titles because they did actually give us titles this time, uh, which, funny enough, we asked for that last show. So
Hmm.
it's nice, but they put it behind like 300 final blows, which is like per character. That's the thing. Like,
Uh-huh.
if you want like the Junker Queen title, you got to get 300 final blows with Junker Queen. So it's going to take quite a bit of grinding to get the free skin. I think it's a little longer than the winter event because it requires like 25 kills per character with an ultimate or during your ultimate, I think. So that one could take a little bit of time just depending on how good you do. But it's not egregious, but it's a cool event. Like, if this is kind of what we're going to see in the future going forward with like these mini events, I'm fine with that. I feel like these are going to replace the what were they, like the streamer challenges or whatever, where you'd
Right.
have to win like 9 or you know lose 21 games, and then you got like the skins and the sprays and the shit like that at the end. So I think this is gonna replace that. These small, like almost workshop code-esque games.
Hmm.
So it's cool. I mean, we'll talk about the rest of the news. Some of the news I was happy about. Some of the news I was like, you know, Comcast be Comcasting it up in here, and now they're Comcasting it in Seoul. So, what can I say? But you know, glad to have another week. It's the first show of the new year, starting
Hmm.
starting fresh. You dropped a bomb on me beforehand that we are now the 160th ranked video game podcast in the United States. So now I'm like super nervous because I gotta actually
Uh-huh.
people. I actually think people are listening to us like that. Like everybody says, if you have stage fright, you just imagine the audience naked. Well, I can't do that because there's no audience. So I just pretended
Boy.
like nobody actually listens to us,
Ah, yeah, that's a good idea.
except for my wife, and she critiques the hell out of me. So I'm used to that. But um, yeah, I mean that's cool. All right, let's. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I saw the email from, Chartable. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I just like went on with my day. But appreciate all you guys out there for tuning in. And of course, if you guys are trying to keep up to date with everything going on here, easiest revenues to do that is basically follow us on Twitter at HND Overwatch, and of course, I can find all of our video content on YouTube, also at Overwatch League Network or at HND Overwatch. Now that being said, of course, free agency window is still open. We got some roster movements. We got an official rebrand for the Philadelphia Fusion. And man, Spyder, like, here's the thing. Like, I know that there are podcasts out there who specifically cover, like Canada and the Vancouver Titans, who
Ooh.
were very salty. Now, I did not listen to the episode. I just saw the title of said episode, but I understand why. So, Philadelphia Fusion basically pulled the copy the homework, but just change it up a little bit. Mantra when it came
Yeah.
to the rebrand to the Soul Eternal. And you're looking at the logo and you're like, where have I seen this before? And it's just like, wait a minute, like it's basically just the Titans logo, just with slight altercations. Sure, there's different colors. There's horns,
Yeah,
and
it's
not much else.
this definitely seems like they went on Fiverr and were like, here are some Overwatch League logos. Here's $20. Make us a new
Mhm,
logo. And the person was like, "Ah,
mhm.
cool." They're like, I'll just copy that one. Look, oh, you're demons now. And they're like, well, we don't want to be the demons, but Infernal. Blizzard has a history with Infernal, so let's do that. And specifically, fuck that one guy who got that huge Philadelphia Fusion tattoo all along his arm. That kind of thing. Like, if you're a Fusion fan, I I can kind of see being a little upset, but this happens all the time in traditional sports. Like it's the whole reason that like when I was a sports fan, yeah, because I'm currently not a sports fan. But when I was more into like traditional sports,
Mhm.
like the best advice for me was, after a big win, after a Super Bowl, after World Series, NHL Cup, for you Canadians, you know, don't go get a tattoo of that team. Like just don't, because they will change towns, they will change logos. Just buy a shirt, love that shirt. And, if they change logos, you still own that shirt. You just don't have to wear it out now. So I can understand people being a little upset about it, but at the end of the day, dude, it's you're gonna go where the money is, or where it
Mhm.
costs you the least amount of money in terms of esports. So, but
Right.
like you hit it at earlier, I think the bigger story of this is not so much the rebrand, because honestly, it's just Fusion finally accepting their fate and living in Seoul permanently, rather than
Mhm.
pretending to be like, oh, we're Philadelphia. Like I expect LA Valiant to rebrand to
Mhm.
the Seoul Shitters or whatever they're going to be. But uh, the bigger thing here is this kind of does solidify the fact that we're going to see a LAN in Korea at this point. Like it would be so weird, and you and I had talked about it a little bit, but it would be really weird to not see a LAN in Korea once Seoul has two teams. Like you know theoretically, I could see another team rebranding,
Mhm.
to like the Busan whatever,
Right.
or
Mhm.
picking up other big South Korean areas. And it was always kind of weird to me that South Korea didn't have more teams, just because they are such a huge, like every team is South Korean at this point almost, except for like three. So it's they've got the players,
Mhm.
but it's cool. Like I, I'm not going to be buying any of their merchandise. Like I don't own any Fusion merchandise, so it's not a team that I ever really supported. And I've gotten shit on the podcast before in the past when I've talked crap about them. But the question I have to you, right,
Mhm.
is is this an attempt to wipe the second place past behind them, or are they just embracing it and just going to continue it?
Well, see, like, here's the thing. Like, in the Dynasty case, we're still chasing the namesake. So with Philadelphia, it does seem like, they're just like, well, we're just gonna accept it at this point. We are eternally just gonna be stuck here, trying to play catch up. But like it makes sense, right? Like at the end of the day, we heard the rumors about potential, the move to Korea or the relocation, having the land events. And whether it's like a closed studio type setup or if they are going to do like an in-person land still remains to be seen at this point in time. But I thought it was very interesting that you had a number of people on social media that are like, well, how can there be two soul teams? And then I'm just thinking like, what the hell are you talking about? Like we've had two quote Los Angeles
What
teams,
what the hell? Like California
since
has
day
had three
one.
teams.
Right. So it's like I don't understand why people were bringing that up. Now, the copying the homework aspect of the logo
Oh
I
no, that I agree
completely
with.
understood because it's like it was like so obvious from the get-go. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I didn't have like any papers to throw or anything, but I looked at that and I was like just shaking my head like you've got to be fucking kidding me, guys. Come on. Like you know better than that. But at the end of the day, like I'm happy that with the relocation we're gonna rebrand. Given the fact that we didn't get to see the same thing with the Vegas Eternal when pairs moved over to the stateside, so getting to see one team at least actually take the approach and take some time. I'm not gonna say like a lot of time in the rebrand, but just like okay, here's our name, here's the logo. All right, there we go, and then just going from there. Um, was a nice change of pace after we were kind of just like, oh
Hmm.
well, sometimes they get a rebrand, sometimes they don't. So we got both sides of the coin at this point in time. But I'm just hungry for more APAC news because it's still been fairly light on that front. But at least this was something for us, and it gave us a better indicator of what to expect, at least for APAC, in this upcoming season. But yeah, just the logo just made me laugh initially, and I'm like, all
Yeah.
right,
I pulled it
here we
up on
go again.
the stream so people can see for themselves. Like, I did a little like back and forth, and it really is like super duper close. Like, I
Hmm.
almost am curious. Like, I made the Fiverr joke earlier, but I am curious to maybe they went to the same like design firm, because it is so much of the same style. Like, I make fun of a lot of YouTubers because a lot of YouTubers go and buy like the hard inked like
Hmm.
multi like triple colored like cartoon logo, and they all look the same, and you can barely tell what they are because of the thick lines and stuff, like the hardcore like 90s comic book lines. um,
Hmm.
and this is like the same thing. So when we get the Busan Bettys that are the LA Valiant, I hope it's like the same logo, just slightly different. Like it's got like a middle part, looks like Betty Boop kind of, but in the same thick lines and stuff, and it's just really angry. I don't
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
it is what
Be
it is.
fantastic. They just need to be the next one. And also copy the Titans logo.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
Just
they need to
just to
copy
further
the
pile
Infernal
on.
logo.
Well, yeah, I mean they're one and the same. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Just slightly change the colors. No one's gonna notice. Or everyone's gonna notice and be like, "Really, we're doing this again?" Because even like the
Mm.
Titans on their social media were making the joke about it. Uh,
Oh yeah, they
so
should be.
it's like as you should. It's like, okay, really, we're doing this. All right, whatever. Moving on.
Moving on.
So outside of that, we got some news from the Dallas Fuel, bringing back some familiar faces. Really, like this is just confirmation from rumors that had already circulated at this point in time. We'd recently talked about the show match for the Run It Back Championship rematch between the San Francisco Shock and the Dallas Fuel. So the Fuel have re-signed their head coach Rush. He's also bringing back Sparkle, Edison, and Hanbin. And then we do have the new backline confirmed now of MCD and Bliss. Bliss, of course, coming from O2 Blast, aka the Shock Feeder team, who have just been absolutely curb stomping all of really Korea and the Pacific. In this case, in contenders, the team that has basically won every championship for the past 7 seasons. And Bliss, we saw in the show match, MCD was one of the players who was heavily rumored. Outside of the other player who was debunked at the time, which is when we saw Bliss actually taking the stage in the show match. So all in all, like it's hard to say at this point in time whether or not we're going to be seeing, some additional sign-ins coming from Dallas. I haven't really seen them hinting too much at any moves beyond this at this point in time. But you have your, league minimum 5 players with this. So, I know
Hmm.
we were talking a little bit last week about who we would like to see them bringing in, just because like the sign-ins for the support line in particular don't scream like big cash players, so to
No.
speak. So there could be some wiggle room to go out and pursue to get a bigger name free agent at whatever position. And there still are a number of free agents out there. And I know on the competitive Overwatch Reddit, someone did a pretty nice infographic that has a lot of the current free agents on all the movements that we have seen at this point. I'll post that in the
Mhm.
show notes for people to get a look at. But you are the network Dallas Fuel fan, the resident Dallas Fuel fan. How are you feeling about the direction that the team's taking here?
And it's understandable. Like they kept most of the parts. I mean, Rush is obviously the big one. Hanbin was, a standout last season, up until the final tournament. Uh, the support line Bliss. I'm not worried about. Like Bliss is phenomenal. MCD is the big question mark. He's gotten a lot of flack for both his play and his, um, you know, outside of the game kind of language and talk. But
Hmm.
I've always been, somebody should at least get a second chance. Like,
Right.
maybe not a third chance, or, depending on what it is, like if it's Dreamcast, or maybe not a second chance, bringing it back to season one there.
Hmm.
But I'm not surprised. I do expect to see one or two more signings. Particularly, we'll probably pick up, another, probably, support. I don't know if it'll be flex or main. It really just depends how the team gels out. And then I still think we need like a hard hit scan. And there are a lot of them out there right now. While Edison did really well in the Sojourn, and he's very versatile. The one thing we don't have is like a sniper character. Like we don't have a
Hmm.
Widowmaker. We don't have a Cassidy. You know, um, at least historically. Now, I'm not saying that Edison couldn't fall into that role, but it's going to be hard for him to keep up with some of them if that becomes like a hard meta. Um, I I don't see it going that way, but you never know what one or two patches can do to the game at this point. So I'm hopeful. Like, looking at the other teams, there are some other stacked teams. Like, sure, I would have loved to keep like Fielder and Chio because they were already gelled with the team. But if Rush has proved anything, he can like mold anybody into that hive mind, given the right circumstances. So as long as a brawl comp is viable, I feel like we're gonna do very well. The It kind of reminds me of like Los Angeles, not Los Angeles, London last season, where you kind of pick your style and you stick to it, which Rush has done that in the past, even when it's kind of off meta. It hasn't always worked, but it has at least brought them, a, at least 500 rating. So I think all in all, I'm not disappointed. We got the key players back. I think just with a couple more signings, I'd feel a little better, but I'm not worried. Like,
Hmm.
especially if the rumor is most of these other teams are going to go budget. Uh, you know, Outside of like the fluke Boston uprising actually rising up, I'm not worried about any of these other teams. Like, you still got New York Excelsior on their crash course allegedly.
Hmm.
London is good, but we've proven that we could beat them. Um, in A lot of the other teams are still question marks. Like Gladiators are being really quiet. Shock
Hmm.
are probably the scariest at this point, with Atlanta and Boston tiptoeing around, but still a threat. So we'll have to see how the rest of it plays out. But I'm happy. Like I think the two things for me. Well, there are three players that I really wanted to keep. Rush was the big one as the coach. Sparkle was actually the second, because I feel like no matter what, he brings like a positive energy to the team, and he's a great player. Like he's very flexible. And then obviously Hanvin, the MVP candidate. So we kept all those. So outside of that, I would have loved to keep Fielder, but it is what it is at this point. He's betrayed us and gone to the worst team in the league. No, I'm just I'm just fucking with everybody. But yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and speaking of Boston, we talked about the quote super team of champions that they initially announced. Turns out Boston was not done making signings, as they have added an additional tank and support to their roster for the 2023 season. So we have Kalios coming over from the Washington Justice, as well as Twilight, formerly of the Toronto Defiant. So again, like for those that don't remember, they're basically like joining. On the tank side, they had Smurf, formerly of the Soul Dynasty, and then they had the Dragons backline of Lee Jagon and Izayaki, which is pretty scary in its own right. And of course, like when I saw Twilight, I was like, oh man, are they just bringing him in to play
Jeez.
the Ana for the team? And I'm like, man, like I you already had a solid
Hmm.
back line to begin with, and now you're just adding on, really, I mean, arguably like the best Ana player in the Overwatch League
It's
still to
it's
this point.
crazy. Like imagine a double flex support meta with Twilight and Izayaki in the
Hmm.
back line. Kalios is kind of weird to me. Like I feel like Kalios is like a backup. Like for some
Hmm.
reason, like I don't know. I get like I get a weird vibe from the Calio signing. Like maybe there's something we don't know about going on behind the scenes. Like maybe Smurf's thinking about retiring. I don't necessarily want to like jump immediately into like the negative. Like maybe.
I think it's more so like Callie's might be better to play like pick up one or two characters because Smurf primarily was just playing everything for the
Mhm.
dynasty and he did
But
fairly
he
well
looked
at that
good on
across the board.
everything.
Right. Hmm.
So like Hanbin, I can make the argument that his Winston was serviceable, but it wasn't great
Hmm.
at the time. But hell, if Dante can learn it in a week, I feel like Hanbin can sit down and learn it if he gives enough time. But Smurf looked good on every tank he plays, and he plays
Hmm.
the weird tanks really well. Like if Ball becomes meta, Smurf is insane on Ball. Junker Queen becomes meta again. He was really good on Junker Queen. Um, Diva is the one standout that I think, and that's who they put on Kalios's picture. So like,
Hmm.
I don't know. Like I said, it's just weird to me. Like I don't know if they're like I said if they found something in scrims like that he's just not doing well with now because stuff has changed. Um,
Hmm.
but like based off of last season, I can't think of a tank that I wouldn't have Smurf on just
Right.
because he gels so well on any tank. But I'm not there in scrims. I'm not there. So to me, this says that they found a either a lacking in a specific tank because I can't think it would be
Hmm.
multiple, or there's something that Smurf is kind of grappling with at this point outside of the game. Like maybe he's like I said, I don't want to jump to the negative train because I think with a fresh team there isn't a whole lot of negative problems unless they're getting like absolutely dumpstered in scrims, which would be
Right.
like the bossinest thing in the world. But maybe multiple players have said like they just wake up one day and they're like that drive is gone. Like
Hmm.
Siegel talks about it all the time. Like he grinded it so hard, so hard, so hard. And even when he got playtime, he was like, I'm not enjoying it at this point. And Smurf's been in the league for multiple years. He's won championships. At this point, he's got to be like, okay, well, do I want to keep playing? Like, do I want to do this? Obviously he's got military service coming up at some point. So there's a lot of outside factors that I think could affect this. It's all conjecture. Like, it could be as simple as you said it. Like it could be Smurf is not great at Diva. So they brought in Kalios, who is phenomenal at Diva in most cases. It could be that simple, but I don't know. It if you put the money into Smurf, it seems weird to put money into another tank like that.
Yeah, I get that, but like we've also seen a number of teams, experimenting primarily with like
Mhm.
King of the Hill,
Yeah,
primarily when it comes to the tank rotation. So it could just be as simple as that, or just picking up the diva, because that might just be like the one avenue that Smurf is a little bit lacking in. But all in all, like I'm not gonna judge Boston too harshly. I've really
same.
enjoyed the rebuild that they have here, like across the board. Like in regards to like a fresh slate, and then this is what you come out with. Like, as if you're a Boston fan, you should be over the fucking moon, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, this is the
Because
highest expectations I've
this
had for Boston in years.
this is the most un-Boston team that you could possibly have put together because none of us on the network here were thinking at the start of this that Boston was not going to go budget. This has always been a team that's been known for trading off their talent. And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? We're going to seek the talent this year. Yeah, we're going to throw people off the trail. And, we'll see how it pans out. But all in all, some pretty great moves. We'll see what the threshold is for Caldus here because there were a number of times last season on the Justice where he was getting a little bit caught out for playing too aggressive, but time is going to tell on that front. But Boston making moves, I would imagine at this point they're done.
They have to
Given
be.
their current roster size, because you got 8 players officially signed at this point.
Yeah, they have to be done at this point. Like unless somewhere out of nowhere they pull like three more players and then they go for internal scrims,
Mhm.
or two more players. they have to be done.
Absolutely. So outside of that, we got a couple of sign-ins for the Florida Mayhem, who have added a DPS and a support player. So Mayhem signed Sauna and Choron. I'm not super familiar with Sauna. Looks like he's a Finnish player. Let's see, what teams has he been on? Most recently, he was on Young and Beautiful. Choose money regardless for this team is going to be what the playtime is going to look like, knowing that they went out and they signed Merit.
Right.
Because that was their regards to the DPS, and there is crossover in regards to the hero pools in this case. So this is another situation. So we're talking about playtime here. You still have Checkmate, who. It felt like for the longest time we were just waiting for, the Mayhem to like pull him out, for like the longest time, and then it finally
Chad
happened. And looked pretty good from what we saw. So, like, you go out, you get Merit, and you're feeling. I'm not gonna say like it's one of the better DPS duos in the league overall, but I still feel like you're in a good enough position where you're happy with the pieces that you already had. So, this is going to be another one of those things where, expectations for playtime in, a player like Sauna, might not see a ton of playtime, but it could just be another situation where, we're going to bring him in for, certain map types. Maybe this is another situation where, they're just trying to bring in a young talent to cultivate, for further down the line, or maybe it's someone they can mold into like trade fodder. At some point in time. You never know, but
right.
When I see a sign in like this, I was like, okay, cool. It's added a little bit more depth, but it's always more interesting to me when teams are trying to find that diamond in the rough. And this is essentially what they're looking for, at least in this case.
I mean, if you have salary space, why not give it a try? I think DPS, going back to like the Kalios thing, I think DPS is a much more wide role where you have specialists, in characters like Tracer, Pharah, Symmetra, stuff like that. So I feel like bringing in a DPS specialist if you need a Tracer player is a lot more, I guess, likely than like a tank player. You kind of just have to force your way on tank and move forward. So they have Sana as the Tracer player. I'm about as familiar with them as you are, but if that's what they needed, this is they've looked at the past and realized that maybe a Tracer specialist isn't a bad idea, because as soon as Tracer's meta, if you don't have a specialist, that's like a an easy loss. And there are the other factors of cultivating young talent, hopefully raising them up to trade, or they are that diamond in the rough, are always possibilities. So I am excited to see when they play, but obviously Chorong is the big signing here. Like they even like they were like, Sana's here, yay Sana, but boy, check out this superstar main support Chorong. Like so I feel like they went out and threw some money at him, just because I think what last season taught us is support is a much more important role in Overwatch 2 in terms of just dueling ability. So like in the past, we always had like those really great like main support or even flex support players who were like passive, could stay alive behind the shields, but healed a shit ton and were really good with their utility. There's a wild Ramses.
Totem and I both got haircuts. You're not ready for this.
Oh God!
I gotta adjust all the cameras.
He's got to adjust the cameras because we never know.
I understand. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Yeah.
So Ramses,
we're talking about the Florida Mayhem.
What do you think about Florida signing Chorong?
Oh, I was teasing Howler about this. I don't know. I was teasing a friend of mine about this because he was talking about how like Florida's never actually had like an elite main support.
Mhm.
And I was like, and he was like, no, because if you look at it like Zeb, like of course not Zebasai, and then Chris, and then Slime, and then Animo. And I was saying, oh man, I can't wait in 2024. And you're like, actually, Florida's never had an elite main support. Like, this Florida roster is really like, it's interesting because there's a lot of really good pieces on here, but it's gonna like, I'm curious about how it's gonna go.
Mhm.
I'm still, forgive me here. I'm still a little butthurt that they took that Merritt's on that team, but good for him. Hope he got the bag. I mean, RuPaul Churong is like a pretty solid support line. I'm not familiar with Sana, who's the new signing,
Mhm.
as much, but I've heard people say a lot of good things. Yeah, I don't know. I think Chorong is it like, it's surprising because we'd figured Chorong was going somewhere like maybe I don't know if I could pick a specific team, but like Chorong was like the big bag getter of 2022. So this guy's probably gonna go to like a very expensive team.
Like
And
your Shocks or your Fuels or
yeah,
one of those teams.
well, it doesn't look like Shock or Fuel are gonna spend a ton of money this year.
Mm-mm.
So
Well, Shock doesn't need to spend a ton of money because they just filler everything from O2 Blast.
yeah. So Shock's not gonna spend a ton of money. Dallas is gonna spend a ton of money because they just won. So like, I mean, it makes sense. It looks like Florida's making a push. I'm surprised because the way they like pitched it, we talked about this a month or so ago. This might be the end of their signings. Maybe,
be.
at least for now, because they're like now they have all three like they put in the announcement. Yeah, I'm just surprised. I really figured Chorong was gonna go somewhere else. But it's just because I never expect anything good to happen to Florida.
They're Boston, huh?
You know, have you guys already talked about Boston?
We just finished wrapping up.
Okay.
The general gist of it was, we were a little curious in regards to the Calio signing, just because, Smurf did prove to kind of be a jack of all trades in regards to, picking up the different tank roles as a member of the Soul Dynasty. And, like just going out and just signing the best Ana player out there. When you already have a really stable backline on top of that is, just add in, the cherry on top of the cake at this point.
So here's my question. Do you guys think it's Decay or Striker who blows up and quits mid-season first?
I wasn't even gonna touch that one. What if they both do it at the same time?
At the same time, and they're like,
what if they like
awesome.
double KO each other with keyboards?
Like, Twilight, you're picking up Cassidy.
Like, that's like.
Oh, oof.
Oh, by the way, in our Discord chat before this, Spyder was warming up. He says, "All right, I'm gonna hop on a pre-stream and play the new mode." I was like, "You're gonna watch Pre's stream? Is he streaming today?"
No.
Like, I'm gonna hop and hang out in Pre's stream. I don't know. Boston is like, on one hand, I'm really scared about Boston, but here's the thing. All right, we have like, okay, Smurf, Lee Jae-gon, Izayaki, incredible. Like on that alone, awesome job. You picked literally Birdring, one of the greatest of all time. Also retired and like had a huge fit on the end of London.
Mm-hmm.
Striker, one of the greatest of all time. Also has quit multiple times. Decay, really, really good. Also temperament. Like, I really wonder with this team. I'm not confident. I'm not at all. And like, you should be. In theory, you should be. But like, oh man. I don't think anyone's gonna say "I told you so" when it breaks up. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's basically like you're building a bridge, right? And you have your base, you have your support beams, but those support beams are really just your DPS trio that they're just trying to hang out before everything collapses. But time's gonna tell. But yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from, just because it has been one of the bigger topics to come out for the Boston Uprising, just because all of them have kind of been known to have their own blow up moments in the past, and Striker coming back again. It's also like another one of those things where it's like, well, you've already been here multiple times, so it's like, is a complete change in direction at this point going to be the thing that like actually keeps everything intact for this team? But all in all, Boston has always been one of those teams which had very set expectations that haven't necessarily been to a high degree. And this is like the first time we're actually seeing like a change of pace. So it does feel like, they are trying to breathe new life into this team. They are trying to actually, be really competitive and potentially chase that championship. Whereas before, it's just like, all right, we're just kind of like maybe not necessarily bottom of the barrel, but they've basically
bottom
just
third.
been, on the
Yeah.
lower, side of, just the Overwatch League as a whole. They haven't really escaped that threshold for them.
Gentlemen, I have a follow up as well.
No.
Do you think they're gonna reuse the same striker retirement video from last year, or they're gonna make a new one?
They're gonna make a new one. It's just gonna have one new clip.
I honestly hope they reuse like the original retirement video, like the OG like retirement announcement, like with Huck being like, "Yeah, thanks, Striker." Yeah, even though he's not on the team anymore. Like I want him to go all the way back.
That was the funniest thing last year. Was like who I don't remember what team it was. Maybe it was like Boston's. Like Striker was a player on the team.
Yep.
Like there was somebody's departure or retirement announcement was that they were a player on the team. Thank you for your.
It was
Oh,
like
no.
the old what was it, tailspin Taimu thing. Taimu has good aim. Like he gives these like four paragraph long like, "Oh Mickey, I love you, like you're the best guy ever. I can't believe that time we went out and got like hibachi," like, and then he's like, "Taimu's got good aim." And that was it. Like I want one of those. And then I immediately want the shock rehirement announcement. Like,
Yeah.
welcome back, Striker, as our coach slash player slash GM.
Boston will be either very big or very low. Florida, I think, if Florida has like one, I don't know. I'm just not familiar enough with the DPS line outside of Merritt and Merritt and Checkmate are both pretty good, but I feel like Merritt did so well on hit scan, but I think like if you had like someone like Yaki caliber on like your flex or on your like more flick scan stuff, I would feel like, oh, easy win.
You're down on the Chad mate, huh?
I mean, has anybody else but you used that nickname? Or because like,
I mean, the whole league uses that nickname after he came out and bodied people on Reinhardt.
that was a fun week.
But I think he's a great player. I feel like his hero pool is limited. Like obviously, I as much as shit as I'm giving you, I think you're correct. Like a higher tier flex DPS player would make you feel a little bit better about it. But Totem had put it best, I think. Like they're not going to spend a whole bunch of money, so they're going to take what they've already got and kind of incorporate, a little bit into that. Looking at Merritt, looking at Chorong, those were the two big like pieces where they were going to spend money. So, you're not going to pick up a Yaki. You're not going to pick up, a higher tier flex support. You're basically going to be like, Checkmate's our guy and we're going to move forward with him. Hopefully Genji comes meta again because he was good on Genji.
Do you foresee a situation in like mid-season where people are going to go, should have been Majid. We should have kept Majid instead. Not RuPaul. Should have been Majid.
Nah, like I think that argument's so subjective. Like you don't know. Like if the meta is exactly the same as last season, sure. But at this point, we're in a Roadhog meta right now. 2-3 patches ago, who would have thought that? Like Roadhog was the worst tank in the game. So stuff can change so fast, and Ramatra went from being absolutely dog shit to S tier by top 500 tank players. So like stuff is so volatile. You're basically going to be like, well, it would have been great if we had a great Widow for this Widow meta, or it would have been great, but I don't think there's any like conjecture that you can make at this point on, past players. A year ago, like shit, Hanbin could come out and totally shit the bed next season because none of the off tanks are meta. So he's struggling to learn Reinhardt, stuff like that. So I I hate to say it, but as analysts, our job is a lot harder now because it's so much more in flux with 5v5.
I mean, speaking of influx, we did get some Spark news like pretty recently. I mean, actually surprising because well, not surprising. We've talked before about how like there's a great like liquidation of a lot of talent, especially on the Chinese teams, but more just across all of APAC. And Spark's been pretty quiet for the most part until a couple of days ago.
Yep. And, they basically dropped half the roster at this point in time. So Spark announced that they have released both Pineapple and Super Rich, which leaves, at this point in time, Gushway and Shy on the active roster. And
what more do you need?
Earlier, we were talking about obviously, the Infernal rebrand. The move to Korea, what that means for APAC, kind of like leaning towards the rumor of basically doing LAN events in Korea for APAC in this upcoming season. So still waiting to see on, what the other news is going to be for like the Valiants, if they're going to rebrand also, or if it's just going to be kind of like a one-off thing in this case. But, if you're the Spark, obviously, like, you kept your two keen pieces, of this roster. But, so really across the board, APAC has still been extremely quiet for the most part. Outside of, like, I know the Shanghai Dragons mentioned, they're bringing Moon back for the head coach position. But, Spark at this point, we still don't know what direction they're going to take. Are they still going to run a Chinese team? Are they going to do a mixed roster? Seeking other Western talent, or what the deal is in that front, we don't know.
We'll see. We'll see. Do you think these guys get picked up anywhere?
I think Pineapple has a chance because there's some teams looking for flex support, but Super Rich, I don't have a lot of high hopes for it unless somebody's like getting really desperate. But it doesn't surprise me that they drop more players based on the amount of flux that region's in. Like they're like you said, you keep the two best pieces and you kind of work it out from there.
Well, and like, I don't know. Super Rich was a guy that like did well, but like, is he really an upgrade over most of the, like, is he an upgrade over of most of what's available right now, or what like you might already have? I don't think so. Right. So, yeah. Well, if somebody ever wants to completely change their team comp just for the Monte Carlo map, whose name I don't remember, we know where Pineapple and Super Rich will be.
Yep.
I'm gonna tease Totem right now because he missed the most important news of the past month. You missed the most important Overwatch League news. Totem is not even on this page.
Which one?
Jake is retiring again, Totem.
Whoa, yeah. I mean, I didn't really talk about that last week.
Oh, did you guys talk about that last week when I was?
We did. We did a little bit. We brought it up.
Oh well,
it just wasn't officially in the notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my input is bummer, but understood. I'm interested to see what Jake does next.
Yeah, also, I'm sure Edinar is probably really upset because he is Jake's biggest fan.
He is Jake's biggest fan. Yeah. Yeah. The Houston stuff is interesting because now that they have, so like, I don't know if you guys talked about this. Junkbuck is now like director of the team, but Neko is head coach, which like, I don't know. I'm not hyped about that personally. I don't know how much really I have to go off of that, so I'm just kind of
it's like the Office situation. Like Junkbuck is still the head coach. He just got a new title, and Neko is assistant to the head coach.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I've seen the joke of like, so are they going to retire Jake's jersey again? Like, are they?
My question is he going to come back to commentate?
I mean, they gotta screw over somebody else's wages somehow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm not touching that one.
That's been another topic, especially on the Riot side, with them posting salary numbers.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of drama on that end too.
Well, you have to
Um,
in California now. So
yeah.
like at the first of the year, anybody who doesn't know, California passed a law that as of the first of the year, all salary data is public in a perspective field. So like it's causing chaos everywhere. Like video game
Yeah.
companies are having it, specifically Blizzard and Riot. Like it's crazy. Like we have people in my company that work in California, so now I know their salaries, but they don't know mine. Like it's so strange because we have a lot of remote workers. So like it's such a funny law that I totally agree with should be in place because I think that's a whole different discussion. I'm not going to get into that.
Well,
Right.
But yeah,
the Blizzard stuff is interesting too because there's already discussions about them. Like, there's discussions about you were signing stuff where like you couldn't work for other companies for like it was like non-competes, like in wrestling.
Yep.
Like you were signing non-competes for certain other places, and then like Riot had stuff with like they're talking about people getting locked out of it. It's kind of a mess. I'm interested to see what happens for this next season.
Well, like commentator salaries has always kind of been a mess, but now it's just added more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
it helps. I think at the end of the day, it's going to help them all out though, because they know, who they are. Like, and you always want to get what you're worth, but most people understand that. Okay, I am a new commentator. I don't expect to make what Mitch is making, but I should make around what Mitch is making. Like, he shouldn't be getting 80,000 a year and I shouldn't be getting 20,000 a year. Like, we're doing the same job. Sure, he's objectively better and senior, so he should be making more. So now they have a little bit like better bargaining tool. Like, okay, you want to pay Uber, 100,000 a year, great. That I should make 60,000 as my first year. You can argue it a little better. It's again, this is like a very broad subject, but I agree with the law, and I agree that there are going to be growing pains in a lot of industries, specifically video games and esports. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to help the field across everything because a lot of people are worried about like the esports bubble and how the esports bubble is going to burst. Like that's something we've talked here and there on the show about, but we've never like had a full blown conversation about it. But we've basically acknowledged it. Like, no Overwatch League player should be making, $300,000-$400,000. Like, 150. Okay, if you want to give that guy the bag, sure. But this keeps that in check because teams are going to be less likely to start throwing higher wages at people because then the rest of their players are going to get pissed off. So
well, there was a recent thing where they bumped up I think not John Spector, the commissioner came out and said that like they've bumped up the player salaries by a little bit to adjust for like wage inflation as well.
Yeah, but
right?
it was like $2,000. Like yeah. I think the league minimum now is like 53 something after last year. But yeah, I think it's good. So we'll
enough for a couple more Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. Our
enough for half a month's rent in LA.
I was gonna say a week's month rent, but okay.
I'm being generous.
Oh yeah.
That's rooming with 3 of the other players in a 1-bedroom apartment. The Vancouver Titans special. Oh.
Yeah.
So how about them Gladiators?
Yeah. the other team making some releases this past week. Glad's released both Reiner and Skewed. Now that being said, obviously there's been a lot of rumors in regards to a certain Toronto Defiant team acquiring basically all the pieces for American Tornado. Now again, we haven't had anything official on that front, but the Reiner release definitely leans into that. So we're still waiting to see. Like, are we gonna get Speedily, Hydron, Reiner, OG, Ultraviolet? On that front, time is going to tell. But with all the moves that we have seen, at this point, it seems like it's going to be a done deal, not just a matter of if,
Hmm.
but when at this point in time. So at least with the Glads, that leaves them with Kevster and your Astro backline of Funny Astro and Lastro.
I Can you believe, if this is true, if this works out the way we're expecting it to, can you believe that they have flip flopped from a Korean roster to a Western roster to a Korean roster to a Western roster again?
Are they
Yeah.
gonna go as far as to have a different flag for
I
every
can't
player?
wait.
You
I
know?
can't wait till 2024 where they go, nope, we're gonna go back to a Korean roster again. Like, they have Toronto has proven they want to not want to, but they are willing to spend money. They are one of the few teams that were still putting on a lot of effort for lands. Like, they want to invest. I don't know if the AT roster, I'm just not familiar enough for if that's going to be enough to contend with a lot of roster, with the high powered rosters. But I mean, with how kind of power is going to be distributed, it might.
It
I
could
think
be.
Reiner, we're not Reiner. That seems like it makes sense. Skewed is interesting because Skewed's played well in almost all the spots. Skewed literally unseated Moth, who's the greatest main support of all time in some arguments.
Mhm.
So I would imagine he goes somewhere.
I think so too. I honestly could see both of these players getting picked up. Maybe Reiner as a backup tank and Skewed as a starter, because I totally agree. Skewed, when he came in, looked good. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't amazing most of the times, but I would put him above average. He wasn't feeding.
You would
you
put
know
Reiner as a backup?
I would, yeah. I feel like Reiner's very volatile. I feel like Reiner, if you can put him under a really strict head coach, I think could do well. But Reiner Reiner has that boom mentality. And you could see it when he plays. As soon as stuff starts going wrong, it's hard for him to swing it back around.
Well, you have to remember, if the reports are to believe, he's going to be playing from someone underneath the crusty coaching tree.
It's possible.
Oh, has No Hill coached for Krusty before?
Well, I'm talking about Kasors.
Kasoras, yeah.
Oh, Kasoras is
Yeah,
and No Hill.
Yeah, and that was the other, rumored aspect of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know then. I think Reiner was fine, but he has a lot of the same problems that I felt like Gator had. As soon as stuff went wrong, he just couldn't mentally recover from it. I'm not saying he wasn't good or he was bad. It just seemed like his play quality dipped. And it was noticeable. So the other team had to make up for that. And that's hard for a team to do. If you're used to playing one style and your tank starts getting scared, it's hard to come back from that, especially in Overwatch too, because offense wins the game. I mean, if Dallas Fuel taught us anything last season, it's aggression can win you fights that you don't deserve to win. And a lot of teams took that, San Francisco Shock did the same thing. Proper would just go super aggressive, and pop off. Hanbin would go aggressive, pop off. Atlanta would go aggressive and pop off. London was super aggressive, whether it was Backbone Widow, grappling into the enemy team, or crazy stuff like that. So I just feel like Reiner needs more time in the oven before he's a starter tank again. Now I think he could be picked up as a starter tank, absolutely. I think a team will possibly pick him up as a starter, but I think for him to be the next big tank, which I think he has the skill to do, I think he needs to ride the pine a little bit and learn from another a more seasoned tanks, a stricter head coach. So I hope he gets his shot, but I don't want to be too hard on him. Because it makes me feel bad.
I'm just trying to think. There isn't a ton of EU tanks that are currently free agents. The only
Right.
one I could think of off the top of my head is Poco.
He's retired as well, I would assume, right? Did he officially say something?
I'm not positive on that front.
I
But
thought he
like
did.
Reiner, all right, let me put it to you this way: Reiner going to London, I think, would be great for Reiner because he could learn, the chillness of the chatty,
Mhm.
and I think he's a phenomenal tank player. Like I think he just needs to get the mental aspect out of the way, because everything Reiner did last season in terms of play impressed me. Like I think he was one of the keys to Gladiator's success. And when Gladiator started having problems, I think he was one of the problems because things started going badly.
Mhm.
So I hope he gets a shot because I was really impressed with him last season. But I think he needs to like be a backup at this point.
Well, only time is going to tell. Uh, on that front. But yeah, that was basically like all the Overwatch League stuff for the week. In regards to
Yeah.
movements. So obviously we'll still be keeping tabs on everything going on in regards to that front. But we also got quite a bit going on the Overwatch 2 front, which includes some new vault skins coming into play. We also got a new shop rotation with the release of the limited time event, which we'll be talking about, which of course is Battle for Olympus. Not the vault skins are something I think is just worth bringing up. I mean, it's not like a heavy topic or anything, but it's another opportunity for
Hmm.
players to go out, get some additional skins that maybe they have missed in the past, and we'll throw everything up on the screen. So you have some old skins, including some of the All Star skins for the Atlantic and the Pacific from the past couple of seasons, as well as some of the Greek mythology skins, which are tied into the event. And like all in all, like I remember when he first announced the Battle for Olympus for like the season, event, and I was like, man, these skins look pretty badass. But I think the
Hmm.
one thing about this that I've seen probably more than anything is one, people like kind of flipping their shit in regards to like the Widowmaker Highland intro, and two, everyone being like, why the fuck is this skin so damn loud as Widowmaker? Because you don't really even need to know where she is because the skin's so loud that you can hear the snakes on her head.
It
So
is substantially loud. Like I tried her in the mode and it is very noticeable. So
Mhm.
um I that'll get fixed. Like absolutely. Like because if you have a pay to lose skin, they're losing money on it.
Mhm.
It unless you're a diehard Widowmaker fan like Kefri, you haven't bought the skin yet. So now you've heard that the skin is not, you know, great for actually playing the game, regardless of how cool it looks. Uh, you're not going to buy the skin then unless you see a fix. So I imagine that's going to be fixed. I think all the skins are phenomenal, and
Mhm.
we've already gotten some of the skins. Like obviously we have Junker Queen as the mythic skin and Farah as Hades, which are two pretty cool skins. And that's kind of what I asked for last season is to include skins that go with the battle pass actually in the battle pass, like the theme of the season. I would have hoped for like Lucio in there because I think Lucio's skin, while okay, is not I would put him at the bottom of like the tier list.
He
Whereas
also doesn't have new music with that skin either.
right, so um, but the prices, I've talked about prices in the past. Like this is what they're going to be priced. Like in terms of like actual skin prices, this is market average. So we're not going to escape these prices. I wished, rather than doing these stupid ass like spray and weapon charm bundles, like they had just a skin bundle. I would be more likely to drop like $30-$40 on a
What,
skin bundle if I could get all the skins.
what's
um,
that? You don't want the weightlifting bundle that's just like a weapon charm of a dumbbell and then like a spray of Zarya lifting something?
right. So I hope in the future like they do that. Like just a
Mhm.
full skin bundle. I'd be willing to pay for that, but I don't care about the Roadhog charm. I don't care about the Reinhardt spray. Shit like that I don't care about. So I'll just wait until they inevitably in the second week put it in the shop so that you could just buy the skin alone, like I did the Kiriko skin. And save me the 500 or 300 points or whatever it is at this point.
I
But
mean, you're gonna end with an odd amount anyway, Spyder.
yeah, I've got fucking like 14.99 or whatever it is now anyway. But I like all the skins, like in terms of like the vault skins. I think it's good that they keep bringing these back every so often. Like not too often, because you do kind of want to like build up the FOMO on them. Like I think this is like the second time you can buy Zenyaki since it came out. So I think that's like a good pace for these skins. But they're skins, man. At the end of the day, most of us have our favorites already, unless there's like something crazy that blows you away. You'll be like, oh, this Reinhardt Minotaur skin's great, and you'll play it, and then you'll go back to Blackheart in like a month because that's your favorite since Overwatch 1. So skins are skins, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, every time I look at it, like I it's like these skins are really great, but also I'm like I'm not like super compelled to like spend the money necessarily to get anyone. I'm just not the kind of like there are definitely people who will spend money to get the skins. I'm just not that kind of person.
Right.
Which is why they need to bring back the loot boxes so I can earn them through the
Yeah. The quiet
If you ever
protest
want-
continues.
Oh, if you ever want to like there is no better argument for people want what they don't have, even if it's worse, than just people complaining about things that used to be in Overwatch that are no longer there. There are like valid arguments for certain things, like the ranking system, or like the highlight view, or not the highlight viewer, but like other stuff along those lines.
The
and people
cards
being like,
at the end of the match.
I want the card at the end of the match so that everyone knows I was a special boy who got 5,000 healing on Roadhog. Like, no. Doesn't need to be there.
I miss the cards. Like, I think some of the cards were stupid, like absolutely. But I miss the cards. Like, it was like a fun bonding moment at the end of the match because like there was that one time you had that like ridiculous Reinhardt game and you had 24 charge kills and that card pops up and you get 10 votes and you were like, this is great. And I even voted for myself. For the 2 people who didn't vote for me, fuck you guys, because you were wrong. But yeah, like the loot box thing is a whole nother like well to fall down.
I know, so I haven't gotten to play the Battlefield Olympus mode yet. I know, Spyder, you were talking about it with us before you got into the call. What is that like so far?
I kind of said it at the beginning of the podcast, but if we want to go into like the full Battle of Olympus, like
yeah, we'll talk about the changes really quick, and Spyder will share some of his thoughts on it. So we got the Battle for Olympus, which is our limited time event for season 2, which is a deathmatch game mode. Where basically all these characters are using their new skins. We got some changes, and they all revolve around changing up the ultimates. So you have your Poseidon Ramatra, who has his Ravenous Vortex, which is a large whirlpool that pulls an enemies that launches them upward. And the Pummel throws large water blasts that deal more damage and travel further. We have the Zeus Junker Queen, who her ult lasts for 20 seconds. Man, a lot of these ults last really long. And the damage done with her scatter gun has a chance to apply additional lightning damage to her abilities. So added damage effects basically to like her whole toolkit with that, which is great. We got the Minotaur Reinhardt. His Earth Shatter lasts 20 seconds. He heals when he charges and slams an enemy into a wall. Although if you're watching Spyder, he'll primarily be trying to shatter Lucio's and hit in the wall. To each their own. Charge can pin up to 3 targets at once. The cooldown is reduced to 3 seconds. And wall slams deal lethal damage and extend the divine power and set the next charge cooldown to 0.5 seconds. I know Spyder was saying, Reinhardt's feeling, pretty ridiculous in this mode. We have Cyclops Roadhog with his whole hog less than 15 seconds, increased size, and you gain 600 health. You hurl boulders that deal massive damage instead of its normal ultimate fire, and mainly deals 5 times damage and pushes enemies away. Farah, Rocket Barrage lasts 20 seconds. You're able to move during the ult, so you're not just a stationary insta-death, which is fantastic. You have 3-headed rockets for your rocket launcher. Jump jet fuel consumption is greatly reduced, so you can stay up more. And, knowing that Widow isn't the best in this mode also means that, less having to deal with for you. Kills heal Farah and extend the duration of this effect. Nice. I'm greatly looking forward to hopping into this mode, if only to play Farah, which is probably what I'll end up doing.
She's fun.
Widow, yeah, Widow in for sight. While scoped in, enemies looking at you turn into stone. But again, that skin super fucking loud, as I mentioned. But I saw a lot of people turning into stone in the games that Spyder was playing. And then we have the Hermes Lucio. Sound barrier lasts 20 seconds. You're able to jump again after jumping off a wall. Boop knocks enemies into walls for extra damage, and also adds a short stun. Your attack and movement speed are greatly increased, and you have infinite ammo. Man, it's quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I haven't had an opportunity to play this, but this is what we wanted. It's not just okay, we're gonna throw like all the heroes in here and just like, you can take a look at the new skins, and that would be the
right.
lazy way out of doing this. But no, they changed up the toolkit. Of course, it's all based just overall power, which is primarily just revolving around the ultimates.
Right.
But yeah, just from what I saw Spyder playing, it's just like, man, some of these Lucios were just absolute monsters. The Pharaohs were really running rampant for quite some time. I think the one thing, at least for like the half an hour I caught that surprised me the most, was more so the lack of Roadhog play in particular. Just because when we're talking about, free-for-all deathmatch, Roadhog, at least in regards to the tanks, has always been the go-to. Just because of the toolkit, just the amount of survivability, just the lethal mentality and like the one-hit punch, all of those things wrapped into one. Where Roadhog has just been head and shoulders above a lot of the other options in there because of his survivability and the damage that he's able to do. Now I do know, they're mentioning they're keeping tracks of like killing blows for this event, and then the winning hero is basically going to get a statue of, them in Ilios. So, that was my main thought. It's like, oh man, I hope to God, like the Roadhog, players aren't going to be the ones to win the actual event in this.
No, if I had to pick, I definitely put it on Reinhardt, because like the big thing for Reinhardt, right, is he gets his ultimate really fast in this mode because you're just running in and swinging, and once you have your ultimate, that 3-person pin that is lethal regardless of how much health they have is a huge advantage, because not only like just think about this, right? You heal off of charge. Charge is instantly refreshed. You can do it again. It's a guaranteed kill on anybody, as long as you're, within that empowered state. And it increases. I think doesn't. No, his is one of the few that. No, it is. So if you slam someone into the wall, it also extends the ultimate. So like there were times. When I had a really good Reinhardt game where I finished second, and the only person that beat me was another Reinhardt who finished first, and I was down by 1 kill. Like there were times I could have my ultimate for like 30 or 40 seconds because I would just continuously pin people into the wall, and it was hard to kill. So I think Reinhardt's really good in this mode. So I feel like he's like my front runner. Pharah's really good in this mode just by the sheer fact that Widowmaker is so bad in this mode. Because Reinhardt is so good, because there are Roadhogs running around. It's hard for Widow to set up somewhere outside of the one Ilios map where, the traditional sniper Ilios point is in the map pool. Widow can do okay there. The problem is they put jump pads on that map, so anybody can get up to the high ground on that map. And they're right next to like the Widow perches. So like there were multiple times like I saw a Widow set up and a Reinhardt would just charge her out of nowhere off of that jump pad. And like Widow. The funny thing is like Widow counters Pharah, but if Pharah has her ultimate like after the barrage, which fun fact most Pharahs that I ran into haven't figured out that you can move during the barrage yet, so I'd see multiple of them sit still. Um, but afterwards, like your rockets fire 3 rockets, that can one tap a Widowmaker in this mode. So if you land a direct hit close enough to them, it will one tap them. And you don't even have to be like right next to them. Like I'm talking like 5 feet out, and it will one tap them. Um, Junker Queen seems really good too on certain maps. The only map I really struggled with Junker Queen on was Castillo because there were just so many fucking Reinhardts running around pinning people into the under area. But Junker Queen can do a lot of damage. Junker Queen actually works really well against Pharah during her ultimate because if you hit the Pharah with even one pellet, it'll zap her and she'll take like a quarter of her health. So range is not an issue at that point. I also feel like they didn't mention it, but I was getting like lightning strikes from my knife as well, like when I was throwing the knife. So I feel like that was also like I feel like that's not in there. Ramatra seems underpowered. I, I I I did not have any good games with Ramatra. It could just been I'm shit at Ramatra, but he seems underpowered. Roadhog is okay. Like I feel like Roadhog is like a solid middle of the pack. Like if you're a good Roadhog player and you can land the hooks, you can do a lot of damage with him. But his ultimate, like if Reinhardt has his shield up, his ultimate can't chew through the shield fast enough that the Reinhardt can just turn around and charge away. So, but it does really well against Pharah and Lucio and Widowmaker because it almost one shots them. But it is a projectile, so you gotta be good at aiming it. Um, I haven't tried Lucio. Like after getting bodied by that Lucio and the 2 Lucios in that last match, I want to,
Mhm.
because he does seem pretty strong on certain maps. But if I had to sum it up for you, it's just pure fucking chaos. Like that's all it
Mhm.
is. Like take a free for all death match, and then amp it up to like 11, and then add a bunch of shit you don't know what's gonna happen. Like I think the craziest fight for me was I think I was Junker Queen on um it wasn't Chateau. What's the other one? The outside one, the temple looking one. Um and like I went into a room, I killed a Ramatra, then a Ramatra came in and used his ultimate, and then I used my ultimate, I killed him, and then like 2 more Ramatras showed up and both hit their ultimates, and I just died. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's this mode, pretty much in a nutshell. Um, you know, I hope they're keeping an eye on it. Because I feel like Widowmaker needs something else. Like the turning to stone thing is cool. Like when she has her ultimate. So basically, as Widowmaker, if you want to win outside of actually that map Petra, that's what I'm thinking of.
Mhm.
Outside of Petra, like Petra, she does really well on because she has a couple ledges that nobody can get to real easily. Um, like you just farm your ultimate and then you can one tap everybody because as soon as they look at you while you're scoped in, they turn to stone, so they're standing still, and your headshot kills no matter what during your ultimate. Like they don't mention that here. Like I think there was one point I was on Roadhog and she turned me to stone and I had full health and I died from one tap. So it's really annoying. Basically, you saw it on the stream. Like whenever Widowmaker had her ultimate after that first ego duel that I tried to take and lost twice, but after that, like as soon as Widowmaker has her ultimate, you just run away. Like
Mhm.
you look down and you run away. And you go find something else to fight for a while, and then when the ultimate's over, you come back and kill her. Like that's it. So, but it's a lot of fun. Like I said at the top of the show, I'm not disappointed in it. It's a fun mini event. I feel like the titles are a little egregious for 300 final blows per character, but I guess if they want the titles to be rare, that's the way you do it.
But I mean, either way, like this is what we had wanted in
Hmm.
regards to other things to unlock during these events. So regardless of like what the threshold is to like actually unlock them, just the fact that they are you know adding other things for us to earn, in this case is always going to be a good thing. And if they're gonna adjust that stuff, later down the road, could always be an avenue that they're gonna go towards. But I would imagine they'll probably keep it about what it's at right now. Just
Hmm.
seeing how the other unlocks have been.
It's fair, and the requirements to get the free skin from the challenges isn't bad. Like you can do, there's like two challenges that are super easy that I completed in like my first two games, which is like pick up, armor packs, which if you're familiar with like old school Quake, they have like the Quake armor packs there that give you like 5 armor a piece and they stack as overhealth. And then there's also ultimate charge batteries that you can pick up and give you like 25% of your ultimate. So there's like a challenge to pick up like 20 armor packs and like 5 batteries. So you could pick those up in a match easily.
Mhm.
And then the next set of challenges for the voice lines is to have 25 final blows during your ultimate. And since ultimates last so long, if you do really well, you can rack that up, in a few games if you hard mainline a character. And then the final group is extra because if you did all the previous stuff, you would get the skin at that point.
Mhm.
The final group is for titles per character, and they have to do with like that character. Like the Junker Queen one is like Zeus's favorite child, and stuff like that. So or Poseidon's chosen, and shit along that line. So it's cool. I'm not gonna knock it. I just feel like 300 is a lot. That is,
Mhm.
if all right, let me put it this way: if you won every single game with one character, you'd have to win what 5, 10, 15, 20, 20, 25 games. Like you'd have to win a shit ton of games. It's 12:30 here. I'm not doing math on the stream.
Well,
Um,
isn't it like first to 20?
it is first to 20. So if you got 20 per game, if you won every game,
So
you
that's
need
15.
300. Yeah, so that's 15 games at least, which you're not gonna win that. Like one game, like that really horrible game that I started out with, I had like 3 kills or something because I got absolutely bodied by like this Junker Queen that was like fucking Hanbin. I don't know. Like they would hit
Mm.
knives across the map and then two tap you. So
So so Spider's like, all right, it's gonna be 15 or 100.
it's gonna be 15 or 1500, one of the two.
Oh man.
But it's a fun mode. Like I'm not gonna knock it for what it is. Like
Mm.
I said at the top of the show, it's gonna hold my interest until I grind out everything that I want from it. I don't know if I'll go for all the titles, but maybe. But after that point, I'm not gonna stress about it. I probably won't play it ever again.
Yeah, understandable. And of course, with this, we also do have a patch, which obviously included the battle for Olympus in this case. So we got a couple of updates in regards to competitive. We have a capture the flag competitive season starting here in a couple of days. Starts on January 10th. Of course,
Woo!
all that can just be found in the competitive play menu. They also updated the competitive play loading screen. Ooh, yeah, that's really what
Fancy.
people are wanting. uh, but really, the big thing here is we do have a couple of balance changes. We got some support changes, Spider. Uh, and I'll be honest, I looked at this and I just more of the same. It's just like okay. But anyways,
Hmm.
so looking at Junker Queen, got a couple of changes again. We got the mythic Junker Queen skin. So Blizzard's like, all right, guys, hear me out. We need to make Junker Queen a little bit more viable. So people are rocking this hard body Zeus skin with Junker Queen. Let's buffer a little bit. So that's what they did. So we
Mm-hmm.
got some changes to the adrenaline rush. Now heals for the remaining wound damage when an enemy dies with wounds on them. Now the Carnage cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds for each enemy that it impacts. And we got some changes to the knife. So they nerfed the thrown impact damage from 80 to 50. Direct impacts now add a 30 damage wound to the stuck target and stacks with wounds caused by quick melee or returning jagged blade hits. So, basically, they basically went from, just initial impact damage to, add in some additional wounds
Mm-hmm.
instead. So a little bit different of a direction with the actual ability. But I just saw this and I'm like, of course I'm gonna buff Junker Queen when she's like the
Yeah.
mythic skin. They couldn't do it to Genji, so it's like they're like, all right, we're not gonna do this again, guys.
He's too good,
we
actually.
we gotta right the ship.
S tier. Nerf him.
He's
Nerf him
too
some
good.
more.
He's too good. He does damage.
Yeah.
Nerf him again. No, like the big thing that I don't think people realize is the adrenaline rush healing you is instant. So if you pop someone with the axe, you get all that health instantly, and you get to swing the axe faster. The axe only has an 8-second cooldown. So if you hit 2 or 3 people, you can continuously swing that axe. And you remember that her previous change buffs her self healing during the yell. So if you're dire, you're going to use that yell. And if you can stack a couple of these bleeds with the new Jagged Blade, because if you direct impact somebody with the Jagged Blade, you get 2 sets of wounds healing you. You also probably get a melee or an axe slice out of it if you're playing her correctly. She can actually self-heal a decent amount, and then that instant self-healing just kind of fixes like a hole in her kit, because like really good like one trick Junker Queens always say like you want to go in and you want to wound low HP targets, but you don't want to kill them because you want to keep that self-healing up as long as possible, as long as it's reasonable enough, like they're not killing you. So like what most people would do is I watched a couple of like Junker Queen one tricks over the past week, because she's my favorite tank to play. Like she's just insanely fun to play. She was just really bad. So it's hard to play her with Roadhog running around, but I love watching people that are really good at her play, because they can kind of make her work in some situations I can't. But like they would toss their knife in the back line, hit somebody, pull them to get the heal, and then like a DPS would go back and kill that person, and then they would die up front because they didn't have that self heal like they thought they would. So they lose some sustain there. So this is actually really good changes. I don't know if it's enough because I haven't played quick play, or I haven't played competitive with her yet, and I haven't seen people play her yet. But she was already like low key on the okay side of things. Like she's definitely one of the few that suffer from Roadhog the most, because she can't do anything against him. So I think with the incoming Roadhog nerfs, I think that will be the time when she starts to shine a little more. I think this is kind of just setting her up, like you're kind of lifting her up a little bit, so that when Roadhog gets pulled down, she's gonna like climb up his corpse and actually be a viable tank. So I like these changes, because I don't think it brings us back to the Junker Queen meta, but it doubles down on like her more fun play style, which is what we all asked for initially. So good changes.
I think the Junker Queen changes are good. The Zarya changes, I think, are a good way of going about it, where they like the energy degeneration was reduced by a little bit, just from 2.2 to 2 per second. And the delay before energy degeneration begins after gaining energy increased from 1 to 2 seconds. Zarya's in I think that's good for Zarya. The change that I think is dumb, and I've seen several people complain about, is the brig change. Spyder, have you seen the brig change?
It's pointless. It does absolutely nothing. Like the
Whoa! Hold on a second.
The main DPS characters are
nothing.
pick DPS characters, right? Like they're like Sojourn doesn't care about 50%, like 50 more health on a shield. She's still gonna fucking railgun it down immediately. Like, well, Brig, like it's literally like the Monty Python meme. Okay, like that guy, like Brig is like running at you, and you're just like, all right, when's she gonna get here? I'm still firing. All right, she's still running at me. Oh, the shield's broken now. Half a second later, oh no, what am I? Boom, headshot. Oh, body shot. She's dead immediately. Like, if they were gonna make a change to Brig, which I don't think Brig needs a change. I think it's just a bad meta for her. If they were going to make a change to Brig, dude, just give her more armor on her health and let her actually like go back to that tank hybrid role. If you want to compensate that by lower damage, fine. Like, just make her like the survivable support that if you want to dive into the backline, you're gonna have to deal with this fucking immortal support that doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but she just can't die to a single dive character. Like, I feel like that's the side they should go with Brig. But they did say on somebody's stream, I feel like it was Flats or maybe Emong, that Brigida is getting like a full rework, supposedly, like new abilities, new art assets. Like they're retooling her from the ground up. Like I'm picturing like Symmetra or Torb level reworks. So if they want to give her 50 more health on the shield, cool. She's not going to get played over Kiriko. She's not going to get played over Lucio. She's not going to get played over Moira for those DPS players who want to go in the back line. She's not going to get played over Mercy, for the pocket on the Sojourn. This does nothing. Like, this is the Mercy pistol ammo all over again. Like, hey, we buffed Brig, and everybody's like, did you though?
Well, and Aaron went out and said, like, hey, just so you guys know, like, we've delayed a couple changes and we pulled up a couple of changes. So that's why this patch is so empty.
Right.
Which, like, thank you for the communication. Thank you for the context. People are just like, the thing with Overwatch, of course, that whenever anything is good for longer than 5 days, people are like, nerf it into the ground. It makes me angry. And so people Roadhog's been good for about 2 weeks. Everyone's like, nerf Roadhog into the ground. I hate this character and he makes me angry.
Well, I just wish on that front, when it comes to like the communication aspect, Ramses, like, yeah, it's great that like you're tweeting it out from like your account. Just tweet it out from the official Overwatch Twitter. Because not everyone is following Aaron Color on Twitter, So when someone just like sees the regular tweets from the Overwatch account, and I know, like, obviously with it being social media, all the comments on like the first like 30 are gonna be like, oh my god, like these shop prices, because that's always what it's always been since Overwatch 2 came out. But they need to have it on both fronts when it comes to communication. Yeah, it's great that Aaron Color's doing it, but also post it on the primary account, because that's where more of the eyes are going to see it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. We expected the Roadhog changes today, so I'm glad that he was upfront and being like, look, they're still coming, but we originally said mid to late January. It's January 5th. Calm your ass down. Like, these are big changes, so they're going to take another week or two in the oven. At least, maybe 3. So it's good that was communicated. I think Roadhog at this point isn't as oppressive as he used to be. Like, don't get me wrong, he's still the best tank in the game right now. But I think with the changes to Orisa, the changes to Ana, I think, I saw Flats talking about it. Flats and Emong did like a tier list, and they brought up a really good point. Like, there's like this trinity of tanks right now. Like, Orisa keeps Roadhog in check, Ramattra keeps Orisa in check, and Roadhog keeps Ramattra in check. And obviously Roadhog's still at the top of the pyramid, so he still has that one-shot capability. But I think it's in a healthier place than it was, before that hotfix patch. So just thank God it's not Doomfist. Like, Doomfist is the worst tank to play against. Like, Roadhog, you have to play around that one-shot mechanic, but you can at least play around that one-shot mechanic. Like, sure, at some point you're going to have to peek. Sure, at some point you're going to have to fucking play the game. But, like, Doomfist, you just couldn't. Like, you could be, like, in Narnia, and Doomfist, a good Doomfist that knew the rollouts, would just come over a fucking building, 2-tap you, zip right back over, and there was nothing you could do about it. So I'll take the changes that we've got right now. I look forward to the Roadhog changes. Like, I absolutely want, like, Junker Queen to be meta. I'd hate to say it, but I'd like to see Hammond come back, because Hammond is one of, I wouldn't say he's one of my better tanks, but he's one of the more tanks that I enjoy. And he, Hammond, a good Hammond is hard to play against, but he's not as as oppressive as a Doomfist. He's just really fucking annoying. And the good Hammonds are fun to watch. Reinhardt, I think Reinhardt needs a little bit of help, because any team that knows what they're doing just casually backs up while he's slowly like, it's the Brigida thing all over again. Like, as soon as...
just let me be able to charge 3 targets. There we go.
Like Flats actually brought it up. He's like, look, I fucking love Reinhardt, and people that are really good about Reinhardt can make him work. The problem is you have to play a very distinct Reinhardt style, which is charge out of fucking Narnia where nobody expects you, get a pick, and then just go ham. If you can't do that, he's useless. So, but the Brig changes, useless. Like I don't understand it. The Moira change though, I like the Moira change. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I like it for the character. Like I always felt a little like if you're playing Moira the way she's supposed to be played and not like a backline flanker DPS, there were legitimate times when you would run out of healing and it would feel terrible. Like you're just waiting for that cooldown, and you have to make that hard decision of, do I want to throw the damage bullshit orb, or do I want to actually heal my team? And you'd have to heal your team because you're out of P juice. So this way kind of lets us actual healer Moiras live that DPS lifestyle a little bit more.
Or it just wastes more P juice.
Or it just basically...
You know, it depends on the Moira player.
Yeah, exactly.
Dealing damage with Biotic Orb now restores a small amount of biotic energy. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, you know, I've said this before. I will fucking say it again. Blizzard, for the love of God, you know, support players are just fed up at this point. Like,
we're
really,
drowning.
It's like, here's the thing. Like, we understand reworks are coming for select heroes in the game, right? But it's like, when you're making like such small changes to just the core of the support in the game, you know, you're not really leaving support players anything right now. It's like, sure, yeah, a Brig rework is on the way. We don't know when. We don't know when it's gonna drop. We just know it's coming. We don't have really any details on that front. But then it's like all the changes that we have seen have been either so incremental that they don't really matter, or it just changes to the cool toolkit that just really don't add that much to the character or like bring the level of the character up at all. So it's just like you're just making lateral moves this entire time, you know? We want to see bigger changes, not like these bullshit changes like what we're seeing here again, which has been kind of a consistent thing that we've been seeing so far with the cycle of balance updates in Overwatch 2, you know? There's just so much lacking on the support front that, you know, it's just a broken record at this point.
I want them to change Moira's ultimate to like the full Kamehameha. Like she can't move, she just stands there, but the beam is like 3 times as large, does 3 times the amount of damage, does less healing, because, you know, it's Kamehameha, it shouldn't heal at all, but whatever, she's a support, we'll give them something. And just like, you imagine that thing just like blowing down the middle of Colosseo, like you're in that thing and the Moira just like pops down and is like, ah, and just throws it down there, and the enemy team just gets obliterated, because she's behind the enemy team, so they don't know where she is, because she was back there the whole time.
Yeah, and just like in Fortnite, a bunch of content creators can like post their clips and pronounce Kamehameha wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You bring that up, but I've actually been playing a lot of Fortnite. The no build mode is highly underrated. Like,
no build's pretty fun. What's funny about them mispronouncing is that literally Goku says it, your character says it as you're doing the thing too. So like, I don't understand how.
No, this season is everybody producing, saying Deku's name wrong from My Hero Academia, like Midoriya.
Deku?
Deku, Midoriya, like is Izuki, like they every name he has they say wrong. I'm like, well, say All Might, and they're like All Mighto, and I'm like no, dude.
That's how he says in the show.
I know. I'm just shitting on people at this point. But yeah, Fortnite, you know, after you do your Overwatch dailies and you play, you know, Battle for Olympus, I hate to say it, but Fortnite no build mode's been a lot of fun. Like I've been playing with my roommate, I've been playing with like random people. It's actually pretty legit. And I can run around as the Doomslayer now because, you know, Mark Zuckerberg, human impersonator, has been trying to build this metaverse for billions and billions of dollars when Fortnite fucking has done it already. Because it. I don't know, but enough about Fortnite.
Oh man, how the tides have turned. Whoever would have thought at this point in time. Really, the only other thing I wanted to mention about this patch, which is something I was alluding to earlier, as tradition with any patch that we have in Overwatch 2, or really just in gaming in particular, always seems to be, a couple of bugs that, rise up in regards to these cases. This one is also support related, which is even more reason to why I'm going to bring it up. But looking at Kiriko, her Swift Step ability is not removing debuffs currently.
Yeah, I saw ML7 was really, really mad about that.
Yeah,
And,
which a pretty big fucking deal.
it is, but at the end of the day, I feel like maybe that's not the end of the world. Like maybe that's how things should be designed. Like let that be a Sombra thing. Like let that be Sombra's shtick. Like if you're gonna teleport to your team right after you get a pulse bomb stuck to you, sure, high level players will say, "Oh, well, that's me outplaying the tracer," but low level players will say, "Well, this is a bunch of bullshit because I just killed half my team," which is way funnier. So let's just leave it at that. The other big change, Hanzo's recoil is gone. The experiment is
man.
done. They
Darn.
finally fixed it. So now Hanzo is once again an archery master, and he doesn't pull up on his bow like it's the first time he ever fucking fired it.
Sheesh.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, people have been complaining about that for a while, so I mean, good that it's off, I guess.
That the one I have up, the first one is kind of funny because I didn't see this one, but it says fixed a bug with souvenirs being incorrectly placed on Ramatra. Like I feel like it was like on his like hand or something because of the fists, but to me it just seems like he had like nipple rings, and like one of them saying like salt would have been hilarious, like because I don't know where they ended up, so that's just where my mind put it, like Ramatra rolling up and he's got like a salt hanging out there, and you're like I'm not messing with that because he's got that one side open on the normal skin. So but
See
yeah,
if there's
there
any other notable things on here. It doesn't look like it.
they fixed a lot of the geometry bugs, because there are people getting into rocks they shouldn't be. Although they didn't fix one that I saw, Seagull and Flats and Emong were playing with. Apparently on Blizzard World, if you throw Junkrat's Chap on any rock that isn't like the main path, it just disappears. Like it's just fucking gone. Like it doesn't like, tilt sideways. It doesn't like show up in a wrong area. It's just like gone. And your cooldown starts. So I was kind of looking for that one because they were having a lot of fun with that. But some of the other ones like the Guardian Angel change for Mercy was kind of annoying because I've been trying to learn Mercy, which sounds weird, but I never like I have like 2 hours on Mercy, so I didn't even know how to super jump or anything.
Oh,
But
it's super easy.
I know it is now. Like once I looked up how to do it, but like there were multiple times like Ramatra would ult, so I'd like fly to like our Widowmaker or someone in the back line, and it just wouldn't go. Like she would be like bloop, 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 and I'm like, cool, thanks. Like this is like her whole shtick, and it doesn't work. So that one I actually saw, but any of the other ones, like
The other I think most notable thing in regards to like the bug fixes was some inconsistencies when it comes to Tracer's pulse bomb. So they fixed an issue where pulse bomb would not damage Tracer if it was stuck to an enemy. So that one is worthwhile to bring up because there were a lot of issues with pulse bomb here in recent patches.
And that's always funny when you get stuck a pulse bomb and you like just run into the Tracer like, well, I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. Like I actually did that once as an Ana. Like she ran up and pulse bombed me, and I slept her right as she threw it. So it landed on me, and then I just stood there and we both died.
We died together.
The Tracer was literally like, well played.
But yeah, that's basically this mid-season patch in a nutshell. So again, we still have the Roadhog rework coming here, most likely in a couple of weeks, since it's a mid-January. Um, so we'll keep an eye on when that's dropping. Of course, we'll see what direction they're going to take him in. And obviously, the meta will probably see some adjustments at that point in time.
Yep.
But knowing that would kind of be like the mid-season patch, more so. We'll see what other balance changes are to come, since this was a lighter one, as Aaron Color had pointed out, since some of the other stuff was pushed earlier and patched through back in December this past month. But yeah, all in all, looking forward to diving into the event tomorrow. Getting some Farah games in, seeing how many people I can kill during a barrage. And I'll remember to move while barraging, not just be a stationary target, like a lot of the Farahs are currently doing in the game in that battle mode. But, pretty happy outside of the support changes, obviously, because the support changes are always just well, did you really do anything? Not really, but, something's gonna give at some point. But, I'm not gonna hold my breath, because, just gonna keep on waiting. That's basically all it is.
It's literally like that drowning meme where like the kid's drowning in the front and the one mom's like, oh well, tanks are at the top because tanks keep getting a lot of changes, and like DPS is struggling because they're like, well, Sojourn's still really good, like some of the other DPS need work, and then supports are just on the bottom fucking dead because they haven't received anything worthwhile.
It's like, 5 more bullets, thanks.
Yay. Look at my 50 more health on my shield. Oh, it's gone. Never mind.
Yeah.
I actually played a couple of games this Brig last week, and it did not go well. Yeah.
It's rough out there.
Yep. I did finish the battle pass. I mentioned in the last show that I was doing the every day, just doing the daily quests and then stopping. I actually finished the battle pass yesterday. So if you
how many days was that in?
I don't fucking know, man. When did the season start? It took me about a month, I guess.
Okay.
Because the season started like December 9th, I think, right?
I'll double check.
So
season 2 start. December 6th.
6th. So almost exactly a month. And there were a couple of missed days, and then there were a couple of days where I did do a couple of extra games. And when I say a couple, I literally mean like 2 or 3 extra games to finish off weekly quests. So you could kind of make that up for the missed days, because like I didn't play Christmas Day, I didn't play New Year's Eve, and there were a couple of other days in between there. So if you, because that was like my whole point in this is like, if you just play every day, do those 3 daily quests, which at most take 3 games, because usually by the 3rd game, even if you've lost all 3, done really fucking terrible, they have like gimme mechanics of like, play 3 games in quick play, play 3 games as flex queue, say hello to your healer, or say thanks to your healer. So and then some that could possibly take longer, like heal for 10,000, or get a team kill or a triple kill or something like that. But there were certain games during certain days that I would finish like 3 or 4 daily quests in one game, and then I would just log off and go do like Elden Ring or Cult of the Lamb. So yeah, if you do your daily quests every day, you can get through the battle pass. Now I'm working on the titles, which is significant because it's a whole nother 100 levels to pick up, I think like 6 titles, maybe.
Right.
So, but that's the update. I probably won't talk about it again unless I hit 200 somehow, but I really doubt it, because
now that was with premium.
Yes. Okay. So
that is also worth noting, at least. That was, if other people are looking to take that direction.
So yeah, if you do your dailies every day and you only buy the basic battle pass, probably expect it to take like 2 weeks longer. But yeah, I bought the premium because we had talked about how you could get the Microsoft points to Overwatch coins. And I had a metric butt ton of Microsoft points because my son plays Minecraft on the Xbox. So yeah, I just had all these points. Like I didn't even cash them out. Like I cashed out like 2,000 coins worth. in with my previous stuff, I bought the premium just because I was like, it's Christmas. I know I'm not going to get to play every day. So
Right.
go do that. I don't know how long that'll last because the FTC is breathing down Blizzard's neck now.
Absolutely. All right. So with that being said, we're gonna close things out for tonight. Of course, the best thing to do to keep in touch with us is follow us over on social medias. You can find us over on Twitter at HND Overwatch. All of our YouTube content is there at Overwatch League Network. We also have our shorts posted on TikTok as well at HND Overwatch. But the most important thing is to just join in over on our community Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. Outside of that, you can reach all of us over on Twitter as well. So, Ramses, where can our listeners find you over there?
You can find me on Twitter at Ramses_GG, and you can find we are still working on some other stuff at the moment, and I'll have more announcements for that soon. Eventually, I've been saying that for a month and a half, but I think we decided to actually do it this time.
Yeah, maybe.
Yay.
It's been a lot of stop and go. I can never tell. I can never tell when, if, and or.
Yeah.
It's understandable though. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that when it does eventually drop. Spyder, what about you?
You can find me at _Spyder Gaming. But honestly, Discord's probably the best place to get a hold of me because I actually check that one. Other than watching the, government seriously implode, I really don't get on Twitter at this point. So
Absolutely. And as for myself, you can find me over on Twitter at Simply Drunk. On the video front, I know I mentioned last week that I'll probably be looking at doing stuff for the World Cup in regards to like roster building. I did start that. I'll probably stick to like some of the more like powerhouse countries, to start things off and just take it, one country at a time. But I'll keep you guys updated on that front, when they're dropping. I just gotta double check like the timeline of like, the committee stuff, like when the roster announcements are coming. Because obviously I want to get that stuff out before, the committees announce what the rosters are going to be, and then I can do a side-by-side comparison, all that stuff later down in the road. But man, I'm just looking forward to 2023 with, World Cup, BlizzCon coming back. Should be a good time. And, hopefully LAN events in Korea with the Overwatch League, like, has been heavily alluded to with, the Fusion rebrand, more teams moving to Korea, all that good stuff. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Heroes Never Die, episode 247, and we'll see you guys back next week. You guys have a good one.